for giving me an opportunity to talk on diabetes and tuberculosis. In fact, this is a very relevant topic. Now it has taken backseat because of the COVID. So there are more deaths due to tuberculosis. So we must give importance even in the COVID times about diabetes and tuberculosis. My talk agenda will be like pathophysiology, screening of DM, screening of TB, treatment of TB in diabetes, treatment of diabetes in TB, and lifestyle modification and conclusion. This deadly combination between a non-communicable disease, DM, and a communicable disease, TB, affects the course, progression, and treatment outcome of both disease. So you should make it a synergistic management. On the other hand, diabetes and hypertension is both non-communicable disease. That also is a deadly duo, and this is also deadly duo. Several risk factors are associated. One is older age, sedentary occupation, cigarette smoking, alcohol consumption, both lower and higher body mass index, human immunodeficiency virus, co-infection, weight loss, hypertension, and family history of diabetes or TB. This is history-wise. If you see, even Indian physician Sasruta in 600 AD said this is frequently complicated diabetes. Autopsy of diabetics in 1883 showed presence of TB granuloma in 50% of diabetics. Recognized in Roman times 1694 that DM increased the risk of TB. Some of the interesting epidemics, as I already told you, this twin epidemics during COVID times very important. Low to middle income countries, it is there. DM increases the risk of TB threefold. TB causes glucose intolerance, and this glucose intolerance, 50% of which normalizes after ATT. TB increases risk of diabetes 2 times. As per the WHO estimates, 15% of the TB cases worldwide are associated with diabetic mellitus. India and China account for more than 40%. In India, the incidence rate of TB among diabetics was almost 8 times higher. In China, about 5.5 times higher compared to TB cases in general population. In one study in Tamil Nadu, around 25% of TB patients had diabetes, of which 9.3% were newly detected. Same number of persons also had pre-diabetes. Pulmonary TB is the 9th most frequent complication of DF. Diabetes is associated with higher risk of failure of TB treatment, relapse, development of resistance, and deaths during treatment. That is why very important to treat aggressively. This is the global tuberculosis report. If you see the incident TB cases compared to global 2.64, that is 26%. Even the incidence of MDR TB, it is 1,24,000, it's 27%. The mortality of TB HIV negative is 36% in the global compared to India. So the risk factor is diabetes because it accelerates the phenomena of conversion of latent to active form, as well as reactivation of old TB, and there is increasing number of people with diabetes. That is why the risk of TB. And these are the 10 countries with the dot of diabetes, and then 22 countries with the TB. Combining, India is a huge burden for tuberculosis, and this is about 100 to 300 cases per 1 lakh of people. What is the pathology? The lung physiology of dysfunction and lung physiology of dysfunction both are impaired, leads to innate immunity and acquired immunity, and increase the risk of tuberculosis. The pulmonary physiology of dysfunction is because it's like diminished bronchial reactivity, reduced diffusion capacity, occult mucus plugging of airways, reduced ventilatory response to hypoxemia, and microangiopathic change in pulmonary vasculature, non-enzymatic glycosylation of tissue, thickening of the epithelial capillary membrane, interference with clearance mechanism. So interferon gamma is reduced, WBC killing capacity is reduced, decreased cell-mediated immunity, I already told you pulmonary microangiopathy, and micronutrient deficiency, pituitary dysfunction, increased ACTH, increased corticosteroids, decrease IL-1 6 beta, and decrease TNF. So this is just a rough figure. So reduction of TH1 cells leads to interferon gamma less, and the neutrophil abnormalities, which I have already described, increased availability of glycerol and nitrogen substrate, and because of the both physiological and pathological lung problem, there is increased risk of tuberculosis. The diagnosis of tuberculosis in patients with diabetes mellitus. We normally don't look for TB in a patient with diabetes. So the drive home message, you always should look for diabetes in tuberculosis patient and tuberculosis in diabetic patient. So how do you diagnose tuberculosis in patients with diabetes? Screening activities should focus early on to detect TB prevention and control of the transmission. The diagnosis is based on combination of screening of clinical signs, symptoms, radiological changes in chest, positive smear, or culture of MTB. So this is the rough comparison. The fever, night sweat, cough, and weight loss. If you see the weight loss in diabetic tuberculosis combination is only 69%. Whereas only TB, the weight loss is more. So depending on the symptoms, what we do, we again compared to non-diabetic patients, TB patients have higher body weight, as I already said. Extrapulmonary involvement has been reported to be less in the diabetic TB patients. And once the symptoms are suggestive, we take a X-ray. The X-ray is characteristic of, compared to normal TB, the upper lobe is involved, whereas here the lower lobe is more and multi-lobe is involved, and cavitary lesions are more compared to TB alone. So these are the pictures where you can see the lesions in the lower lobe. And what are the tests we do? The RTA-NCP recommended test is one is, all of you know, Ziel-Nielsen test, sputum smear microscopy, most commonly used, but it has a limited sensitivity in HIV and children. Culture, LGA medium, automatic liquid culture, all of you would have learned. But the problem is time is 2 to 8 weeks, but it is useful for assessing the response to treatment. Rapid molecular diagnostic tests like line probe assay, then to detect the rifampicin resistance and INH resistance, gene expert, and also cartridge-based NAT, high specificity and sensitivity, and also it takes only 2 to 3 hours to diagnose. Very useful in HIV and extrapulmonary TB. Early screening of diabetes in a TB patient helps in initiation of diabetes treatment, education of patients, and correction of hyperglycemia, which can lead to positive effects of the outcome of TB treatment. Some recommend screening both at the time of diagnosis and also 3 months later, and also completion of the treatment, because sometimes the hyperglycemia may revert after ATT. This is the rough figure. The patients with history of diabetes, you must ask for the history. If the history is there, you refer to a diabetic center. If the patients have no history of diabetes, do a random blood sugar. If it's more than 200, you diagnose diabetes. If the random blood sugar is 100 to 200, do the fasting blood sugar. And if the fasting blood sugar is more than 126, again diagnosis. And you can do OGTT. And then if the OGTT, the fasting blood sugar is more than 126, or 2-hour plasma glucose is more than 200, it is diagnosis of diabetes. And if the HbA1c is more than 6.5, again, it is a diagnosis. So again, diabetes can worsen the course of TB, and TB can worsen glycemic control in patients with diabetes. That is a big challenge. A patient with diabetes, when they have developed TB, the problems are more. Okay, what is the treatment of tuberculosis in a patient with diabetes? The 4-drug regimen, usually what we give can be given. The intensive phase, 8 weeks, isoniazid, rifampicin, pyrazinamide, and ethambutol. In continuation phase, we give isoniazid, rifampicin, and ethambutol. In a previously treated tuberculosis where there is a discontinuation, the intensive phase is 12 weeks, where you may add also streptomycin for 8 weeks. Continuation phase, again 20 weeks, isoniazid, rifampicin, ethambutol. Bedaquiline and delamanid are the recent additions for multi-drug resistant tuberculosis therapy. In case of additional drug resistance, clofazimine, linezolid, and paraminimum salicylic acid may be considered. This is the TB with MDR TB, where chloroquine, we would do levofloxacin, kanamycin, ethinoamide, cycloserine, pyrazinamide, and ethambutol for 9 months, 6 to 9 months. Continuation phase, we use levofloxacin, ethinoamide, ethambutol, cycloserine. Nearly we continue for 24 to 27 months. The treatment of MDR TB comprises of an extensive 24 to 27 month therapy. The WHO and RNTC prescribe treatment. At least 5 major drugs should be included. And this is the then coming to the anti-tuberculosis drugs in diabetes. Exhibits suboptimal response to anti-TB agents, because the changes in drug absorption due to diabetes, particularly rifampicin, due to low serum concentration, it can culminate into drug resistance. A decrease in gastric hydrochloric acid secretion, impaired drug absorption, even in the absence of clinical gastroparesis, may be the reason for the suboptimal response. demonstrated response resistance to rifampicin 27%, and the serum concentration of rifampicin is only 53% lower in patients with diabetes compared to non-diabetic. A Turkish study reported that plasma INH and RIF, rifampicin concentration in TB patients with diabetes were 50% lower than observed in TB patients without diabetes. Study from India, TB patients with diabetes had lower serum concentration of INH, pyrazinamide, compared to with patients without diabetes, and the effect was linked to hyperglycemia. Reduced exposure of anti-TB drugs, again, I told you the higher body weight. So appropriate dose adjustments based on body weight, routine monitoring of therapeutic drug response, and fortification of TB regimes such as use higher doses or extended treatment duration is advocated, especially in patients at high risk for the good treatment outcome. The outcome may be that because the patients with TB who have diabetes have higher bacillary load in sputum, possibly delay in sputum culture conversion, because sometimes in the initiative phase, in 2 months' time, the sputum will be negative. Whereas in TB with diabetes, it may be positive in the even after 2 months. Then you must look for resistance for any drug. Higher rates of multiple drug resistance. Numerous studies have identified 2 to 9-fold increase in the risk of MDR TB among patients with diabetes compared to normoglycic individuals. A comparatively higher proportion of subjects with TB and DM had treatment failures, increase of deaths compared with those without diabetes, 6 times higher. What are the drugs for diabetes in a patient with tuberculosis? Insulin is recommended in all patients. It's because of the benefits, like it is an anabolic action, low potential for drug interaction with anti-TB drugs. Use of insulin is advised, especially in newly diagnosed patients with HbA1c more than 9 and FPG more than 250, presence of ketone bodies, symptoms of hyperosmolar state, and for those in a catabolic state. Dose adjustment may be needed during the course of treatment. Metformin recommended in less severe cases of TB when insulin treatment is not available or acceptable. Potential benefits, of course, it has got a polymorphic action. It is also antimitochondrial toxin, and it is also good in MDR TB. And you should discontinue when the liver function is affected or glomerular filtration is less than 30. Overall, metformin has a favorable pharmacokinetic safety with use of bedaquiline.
We'll have to speed up a little bit. We're running late.
Okay. I'll finish in 2 minutes. Short-acting sulfonylureas such as glycoside and glyphosate may be used because of the possible risk infection. DPP4 and SGLT should be avoided. Most commonly prescribed OAD drugs are mainly metabolized with P450. So rifampicin is a potent inducer. So interaction between the ATT and the anti-diabetic drugs. Again, glyphoside and glyburide. Also, you have to reduce rifampicin when you give. When they're receiving glyphoside and glyburide, there will be 39 to 22% lower serum concentration. And then modest reduction of plasma levels of netiglyceride and ripaglynate concentration when you admit rifampicin. Whereas isoniazid, on the other hand, is inhibitor of cytochrome. So hypoglycemic effect of sulfonylurea may be more. Concerns of electrolyte imbalance, QTc prolongation, gastrointestinal toxicity when you use bedaquiline with sulfonylurea or insulin or mega. And pre-diabetes need to be monitored because pre-diabetes on AT can become a full diabetes. Poor TB associated with malnutrition can unmask diabetes. Lifestyle modification, of course, increase in protein, weight reduction if it is more weight, and vitamin D, B6, B12, vitamin A, cessation of alcohol, and of course, chronic disease. For chronic kidney disease and chronic liver disease, again, insulin is the drug of choice. When there is a hepatotoxic drugs, ATT drugs should be monitored, INH can be given. So this is the algorithm for both diabetes and tuberculosis. What are the steps which I have already told you? So 3 mechanisms, established mechanism for collaboration between Diabetic Association and the TB Association in India, detect and manage TB in patients with diabetes, detect and manage diabetes in a patient with TB. So increase in mortality and morbidity due to both disease, a cause of concern. Optimal screening and monitoring and management of both disease is a must. Need for conducting well-designed prospective studies, integration of national level TB and diabetic program. As in HIV TB, we must adopt similar methods. It is also vital to ensure availability of medicines for proper management. Let us all together achieve TB-free, diabetes-free world. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Over to the